core of what this Rolling Thunder thing is all about. And I don't have a clue, because it's about nothing. It's just something that happened 40 years ago.
For decades, Bob Dylan has stood as a towering figure in music, a poet, a rebel, and the voice of a generation. His influence spans genres and eras, inspiring countless artists to pick up a guitar or pen lyrics that could shake the world. Yet despite his legendary status, not every rock icon was eager to step into the studio with him. One surprising name is Mick Jagger, the electrifying frontman of the Rolling Stones, who has recently revealed why he and other rockers refused to collaborate with Dylan. What could have possibly stopped two of music's greatest minds from working together? Envy, fear, or something more complicated? Bob Dylan was never just an ordinary musician. By the mid-1960s, he had evolved from a wandering folk singer into a cultural lightning rod, delivering lyrics that sliced through the haze of a turbulent era. Born Robert Allen Zimmerman on May 24, 1941, in Duluth, Minnesota, Dylan was raised in a modest Jewish family and grew up as a quiet, observant child who found his earliest inspiration in blues and country radio broadcasts. When he picked up a guitar and began to write, something extraordinary emerged. By the time he arrived in New York's Greenwich Village in 1961, Dylan had become a sponge, absorbing the energy of the folk revival and converting it into groundbreaking songs like Blowin' in the Wind and The Times They Are A-Changin', tracks that didn't just comment on the civil rights movement but became anthems for it. Dylan wasn't just a songwriter, he was a prophet. At the height of his influence, nearly every artist wanted to work with him, except the rockers. But why? As Mick Jagger would later reveal, the answer was a complex mix of admiration, intimidation, and practicality. The rock scene of the 1960s and 70s was filled with oversized personalities and egos. Collaboration often meant creative compromise, and Dylan didn't compromise. His artistic vision was uncompromising, his methods spontaneous, and his personality deeply elusive. Working with Dylan, Jagger hinted, would mean entering a creative whirlwind where structure and control vanished. It wasn't simply about clashing personalities. Dylan's recording sessions were famously unpredictable, with some songs recorded in one take and others rewritten on the spot. His approach, while genius, could be chaotic, something that didn't align with the tighter, more rehearsed dynamics of most rock bands at the time. Mick Jagger, by contrast, came from a different mold. Born July 26, 1943, in Dartford, England, Jagger was the embodiment of rock and roll swagger, smart, sharp, and fiercely driven. As the frontman of the Rolling Stones, formed in 1962 alongside Keith Richards and Brian Jones, Jagger helped create the rough-edged, rebellious sound that became the gritty counterbalance to the Beatles' polished pop. With songs like I Can't Get No Satisfaction and Paint It Black, the Stones pushed boundaries, both musically and socially, and Jagger's stage presence, with his snarling lips and restless energy, made him an icon. Despite their mutual respect and shared cultural era, the distance between Dylan and the Stones remained when it came to musical collaboration. Dylan was revered, yes, but also unpredictable. And in an age where image and output mattered deeply, few wanted to risk creative friction with a man who refused to follow anyone's rules. Jagger's recent comments pull back the curtain on what could have been one of the greatest musical pairings of the century, and why it never happened. The question of collaboration between Bob Dylan and other major rock artists has lingered for decades, especially when considering his undeniable influence. Dylan reshaped music as we know it. The Beatles credited him with pushing their songwriting into deeper, more personal territory. Jimi Hendrix transformed All Along the Watchtower into a volcanic masterpiece, and the Byrds built their entire folk rock sound on his blueprint. So why did rock icons like Mick Jagger avoid joining Dylan in the studio? Reports of Dylan's erratic, often chaotic approach to music made many organized, precision-focused rockers nervous. His style simply didn't align with their structured process. One infamous example occurred in 1965 at the Newport Folk Festival, when Dylan shocked his band and fans by plugging in an electric guitar without warning. The performance marked a radical shift, merging folk storytelling with raw rock energy, and left many in his circle scrambling to keep up. Dylan's music was cerebral, unpredictable, and wild. For rockers accustomed to tight rehearsals and consistent sound, his improvisational style was more threat than thrill. To some, Dylan was a genius. To others, he was a cryptic enigma whose brilliance could both inspire and isolate. Take Highway 61 Revisited, recorded in 1965. Musicians like Al Cooper and Mike Bloomfield remembered Dylan arriving at the studio with half-finished lyrics and vague instructions. He'd shout things like, "Play it like it's raining," leaving the band to decipher his meaning in real time. The results were revolutionary. Tracks like a Rolling Stone redefined what a rock song could be, but the process was maddening. For a band like the Rolling Stones, whose success relied on the carefully balanced chemistry between Jagger's vocals and Richards's riffs, Dylan's method felt like a threat to their identity. Then there was the issue of stature. By the late 60s, Dylan wasn't just a musician, he was a myth. After surviving a near-fatal motorcycle crash in 1966, he retreated to Woodstock, resurfacing with the mysterious basement tapes recorded with the band. Every move he made was scrutinized, every word analyzed. Collaborating with Dylan meant risking being overshadowed, an intimidating prospect for icons like Jagger, who had spent years building their own legacies. "We all loved Bob," Jagger admitted, "but you didn't want to be the guy standing in his shadow. He had this way of making everything about him, even when he didn't mean to." Despite the hesitation, there was always deep respect. Jagger never denied Dylan's impact on the Rolling Stones. Songs like "Street Fighting Man" carried traces of Dylan's fusion of protest and poetry. Keith Richards once called Dylan the real deal. Still, admiration didn't always lead to collaboration. Was the distance a personal decision, or a matter of survival? The Stones had their kingdom, and Dylan had his. Crossing that line, as Jagger would later reflect, was a creative gamble few were willing to take. By the 1970s, Bob Dylan's mystique had only deepened. After retreating from the public eye following his 1966 motorcycle crash, he reemerged with a new sound, grittier, more introspective, and often cloaked in ambiguity. Albums like John Wesley Harding and Nashville Skyline revealed a softer side of Dylan, trading his electric fury for country-tinged ballads. Yet, even as he evolved, he remained an elusive figure, a chameleon who defied expectations. For Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones, who were then riding high on albums like Sticky Fingers and Exile on Main Street, Dylan's unpredictability was both alluring and intimidating. His genius was undeniable, but his lack of structure posed a serious creative risk. Jagger's perspective on Dylan wasn't theoretical, it was shaped by real-life encounters. One such moment came in 1972 when the Stones were in New York after a triumphant U.S. tour. Dylan, living quietly upstate, made a rare appearance in the city and reportedly dropped by a late-night jam session at a downtown club. Word spread quickly, Dylan was there, guitar in hand, ready to play. Jagger was present too, along with a handful of other rock legends. What could have been a legendary collaboration turned instead into an awkward standoff. "He started playing something and we all just watched," Jagger later recalled. "Nobody knew where he was going with it. Half the room thought it was brilliant, the other half was lost." Jagger didn't jump in. "Didn't feel right," he said. "It wasn't about ego, it was about rhythm." The Stones thrived on groove, a tight-knit musical chemistry that made their live shows electric. Dylan, however, operated on a completely different wavelength. His tempo could shift mid-song, his lyrics often veered into abstract territory, and his band, when he had one, was expected to follow him without question. Another reason rockers hesitated to work with Dylan was his reputation as a studio wildcard. During the recording of Blood on the Tracks in 1975, even seasoned professionals were thrown off by his methods. Dylan would rewrite lyrics on the spot, scrap takes others thought were perfect, and swap out musicians without warning. Guitarist Kevin Odegaard, who played on the sessions, recalled Dylan discarding an entire track simply because it didn't feel right. The album became a masterpiece, but the process left many collaborators rattled. To Jagger, who had overseen the Rolling Stones' meticulously crafted albums like Goat's Head Soup, Dylan's freewheeling approach was a red flag. "We'd spend days getting a sound just so," he noted. "Bob could tear it all down in a minute. That's not how we worked." Yet there were moments when their paths nearly aligned. In 1985, the music world buzzed with anticipation over Live Aid, the global concert organized by Bob Geldof. Both Dylan and Jagger signed on, raising hopes for a long-awaited duet. Backstage in Philadelphia, they crossed paths, Jagger in a neon jacket, Dylan in a leather vest, looking like he time-traveled from another era. Fans dreamed of a joint performance, but it never came to be. Dylan took the stage with Keith Richards and Ron Wood, performing a ragged version of "Blowin' in the Wind" that left critics unimpressed. Jagger, watching from the wings, chose instead to perform his solo set with Tina Turner. The Live Aid mishap only confirmed what many suspected: Dylan's erratic live presence, though iconic, made him a difficult partner in high-stakes performances. For Jagger and others like him, the risk of chaos often outweighed the reward of brilliance. Unpredictability was a hallmark of Bob Dylan's performances. He'd change keys without warning, skip entire verses, or stretch songs into marathon jams. For a frontman like Mick Jagger, who commanded audiences with choreographed precision and exact timing, collaborating with someone as mercurial as Dylan was a gamble not worth taking. "You've got to know your partner's next move," Jagger once explained. Beyond the stage, there was a deeper divide in their images as well. The Rolling Stones cultivated a wild, rebellious persona, leather, decadence, and danger, while Dylan's persona was cerebral, enigmatic, and almost ascetic. A collaboration between them risked muddying both brands. In 1986, when Dylan began informally reaching out to fellow rockers for what would become the Traveling Wilburys, Jagger declined. George Harrison, Tom Petty, and Roy Orbison eagerly signed on, but Jagger passed. "It wasn't my scene," he said simply. "Bob's got his crew, I've got mine. Mixing it up didn't fit." The Wilburys thrived without him, crafting their own quirky, laid-back supergroup vibe. Meanwhile, the gap between Dylan and Jagger only widened in the 1990s and 2000s. Dylan embraced his now legendary, never-ending tour, a grueling, minimalist odyssey that kept him on the road nearly non-stop. The Stones, by contrast, leaned into spectacle, scaling up to massive, high-production tours like Bridges to Babylon with giant LED screens, fireworks, and global fanfare. Yet despite diverging paths, Jagger never lost sight of Dylan. Today, they stand as living monuments to rock's golden age, their legacies distinct yet forever intertwined. At 81, Mick Jagger remains a force of nature, defying time with the kind of energy that would challenge artists half his age. Fresh off the Rolling Stones' 2024 Hackney Diamonds tour, he continues to pack arenas with a mix of timeless hits like Gimme Shelter and fresh tracks that resonate with urgency. Their album Hackney Diamonds, the first with original material since 2005, soared to #1 in the UK and earned Grammy buzz for its lead single Angry. Critics marvel at Jagger's stamina. His signature moves, sharp vocals, and magnetic stage presence remain undiminished. "I'm not slowing down," he told a roaring crowd in Los Angeles, flashing his trademark grin. Offstage, Jagger is just as restless, dabbling in production, mentoring new talent, and even teasing a solo EP. The Stones continue to run like a well-oiled machine, thanks largely to Jagger's leadership. Keith Richards, now 81, remains his unpredictable but loyal foil, while Ronnie Wood, the new guy, at 77, rounds out the trio. Their shows are more than nostalgia, they're living proof of rock's enduring fire. Meanwhile, Bob Dylan, now 83, thrives in a way that few could have predicted. His never-ending tour continues, a stripped-down, soul-searching journey that stands in stark contrast to Jagger's bombast. His voice is a weathered growl, but his pen remains razor-sharp, fueling a late-career renaissance filled with depth and mystery. The long-speculated collaboration between Dylan and Jagger never happened, and perhaps never could have, but their parallel paths show why. Dylan's unpredictability, though revered, clashed with Jagger's precision. In the end, both men chose to remain true to their own visions, building legacies not through compromise, but through unwavering commitment to who they are. 1988 rolls on with 2025 dates already booked across Europe and North America, as Bob Dylan shows no signs of slowing down. His album Rough and Rowdy Ways, released in 2020, continues to resonate deeply with fans and critics alike. Tracks like The Haunting and Sprawling, Murder Most Foul, have been hailed as some of his finest work in decades. Offstage, Dylan's creative energy remains just as fierce. He's returned to painting, with his abstract artworks now fetching high prices in galleries. His 2022 book, The Philosophy of Modern Song, became a bestseller, offering his uniquely insightful takes on artists ranging from Elvis to The Clash. Health battles have added a layer of gravity to both Dylan's and Mick Jagger's ongoing legacies. Jagger's heart valve surgery in 2019 could have marked the end of an era, but instead, he staged a dramatic comeback, back in the gym and on the stage within months. Dylan, too, has weathered storms. Rumors about his health have circulated for years, especially in the 2010s, but his relentless tour schedule has consistently silenced doubters. In 2024, even a bout of pneumonia couldn't keep him down. He rescheduled shows with a simple, resolute message: "I'll be there." The resilience of these two legends takes different shapes. Jagger thrives on public triumph, on spectacle, energy, and the roar of massive crowds. Dylan, in contrast, exudes quiet defiance, continuing on his path with stark, stripped-down performances. Jagger's 2025 tour with the Rolling Stones leans into grandeur, featuring massive screens and star-studded cameos, such as Lady Gaga joining for Sweet Sounds of Heaven. Dylan, meanwhile, sticks to his minimalist roots, just him, a tight band, dim lights, and no frills. A collaboration now would feel less like synergy and more like a clash of artistic empires, Jagger's stadium-fueled showmanship versus Dylan's meditative introspection. Yet signs of a thaw between them have surfaced. At a 2023 benefit concert in New York, they were spotted backstage sharing a laugh. Jagger praised Dylan's recent album, while Dylan quietly acknowledged the Stones' longevity. There was no impromptu jam session, but the moment suggested a hardened mutual respect. Their legacies now ripple far beyond their own work. Jagger's iconic strut and swagger echo in bands like The Killers and Arctic Monkeys, while Dylan's poetic depth can be heard in the songwriting of artists like Phoebe Bridgers and Father John Misty. The Rolling Stones catalog continues to stream in the billions, with "I Can't Get No Satisfaction" still a cultural landmark. Meanwhile, Dylan's 2016 Nobel Prize in Literature and his 2001 Oscar for Things Have Changed have solidified his place as a singular literary and musical force. Neither man needs validation, but both continue to redefine what legacy really means. Each artist, in his own way, needed the other to shine, a truth Mick Jagger seemed to grasp early on. Collaboration between such towering figures might have diluted their distinct brands rather than enhanced them. In the modern era, social media has amplified their individual reach. Jagger's frequent tour updates and behind-the-scenes posts keep fans engaged, while Bob Dylan's rare and cryptic tweets, often just a lyric or tour date, send his followers into a frenzy of interpretation. One tweet from Dylan in January 2025, reading simply, "The past is a bucket of ashes," ignited widespread speculation. Meanwhile, Jagger's more straightforward, "See you in Berlin," racked up thousands of likes in minutes. Their refusal to collaborate never hurt them. In fact, the rockers who once shunned Dylan's orbit went on to build empires of their own. Now, as both men enter the twilight of their legendary careers, those empires still stand tall, separate, but equal. Each remains a ruler in his own right, reigning supreme. What do you think about the decision these rock icons made? Did avoiding collaboration help them grow independently, or did it cost them something greater? Share your thoughts in the comments, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out the next video, you won't want to miss it.